Well, it's got new stuff that I'm not used to. Hey, everybody. We almost canceled the call again. It's been a rough one. We're still testing positive for COVID. Um, yay, not positive in my book. Still got the intestinal thing going on and the fatigue. I just cannot. I don't even remember what it was like in previous strains, but this time is just wiping us out. And then we had a tornado come through earlier today. Skipped
Not
us,
good.
not it skipped. It did take the bark off of our birch tree. But there's over 3 dozen collapsed buildings in the city and zoos down. I mean, it's I don't know, it's hard when it's that close to home and trees down everywhere and all kinds of stuff. So but I kind of feel like being with y'all uplifts us anyway. So I think we're just really tired of being at home and lethargic, and you can run to the store for your basic needs, but then it's like just chilling and resting, and I'm really tired of that part. So, let's see. I know y'all have probably heard this a million times, but in case you hadn't, the Quilters documentary released on Netflix today. Please, if you haven't, give it a watch. I'm very excited for all the conversation about it in our sewing and quilting communities. Um, I think I'd mentioned in my video this morning, the hard part is I get so insulated in the quilting community, which is very warm and welcoming. And then when you kind of venture out and see other sources of news, it's brings me right back in. So it's very well done. And I know the director has two other movies out there that I'm going to link to, and I'm going to actually probably watch them while I'm chilling more this weekend. Um, let's see, you're monitoring chat, right?
I am.
Okay. So let's see what we got tonight. Um, oh, okay. So yeah, my notes are really scratchy here. I'm going to answer a few questions that we had come in this week that I think are good information. Number one, I think it was Tammy. Oh, Tammy, if you're on, I can't remember if Tammy said yep, Tammy, you're on. Tammy had posted in the business group about having done taken in a machine for a customer and it needed some rewiring and all kinds of other things. And the customer politely declined and then just kind of wanted to surrender it and asked if there's any liability or anything you should be aware of in that situation. Am I getting that right, Tammy?
Yes, yes, you're getting right.
Okay, and I did see your update, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
And it's like I said in the past, this is one of the things I feel like you kind of have to feel out. In the past, we took in hundreds of abandoned machines, donations. I don't want this thing anymore. It's too much. And we never really had anyone sign anything. I can't really, can you think of any instance? I think if someone gives you
Not
a
one
weird
time.
feeling, I don't think one time we did. No, that doesn't mean it's always that way. Societally, we change, and there's comes times where I feel like you do get a batch of people all at once that might give you some trouble. The only time we had anyone sign any specific waivers, number one is if a machine did need electrical rewiring, and like let's just say it came in and somebody had clearly spliced something and then did some electrical tape. Is it really a big deal? For me, yes, because you don't know what the repercussions of that is. So if someone said, "No, I would rather you just service a machine and just leave the wiring. I don't want to pay for that or do that," we would make them sign something saying we recommend that you should have the electrical fixed, and you declined that. So in that instance, and then also when people would drop off one of the Viking 6000 series, it's known for having all the varnished lubricant in it from the factory. Uh, we had them, just notified up front that that may be an extensive charge. Those are literally the only two waivers we ever signed. So it sounds like it ended well for you though, Tammy. Could you tell
It
us
did.
what you ended up doing just so everybody knows?
Yeah. What I ended up doing was I usually give an invoice, and it's one of those things you can buy from Amazon, and it's carbon copies. And I just wrote down his information, his phone number, his name, and the machine, the serial number. And what did I write? I wrote I forget what I wrote, but customer surrendered machine due to extensive repair in lieu of bench fee. And then I put my price and I put a line through it. And I said, could you please sign this? If, that way it protects you and protects me, so that, you said that you gave this to me. And he said, oh, sure, that's fine. And the reason that I wanted that, I didn't know him.
Mhm.
He just called me out of the blue. Most of the customers that I have are from the quilt shop that I worked at. And I know them. So I thought, this man, he seemed very nice, but you just don't know, it could backfire. So, and I just was afraid that, I didn't think that anything would happen, but just that one little 0.5%, maybe it would. So, and he's like, yeah, that's fine. He said, my wife hasn't used, my wife passed away and all that, but I showed him the work that I would need to do to it. And it had electrical, and it was, if someone had rewired it one time, but they didn't, they rewired it so far. And then right up to the motor, they put the electrical tape. And I'm like, this is what concerns me.
It should.
And that's where it's going to take my time. The rest of it is just cleaning it and getting all the dust bunnies out. And I said, I don't think this has ever been cleaned. And I showed him, and he's like, yeah, I don't think she ever had it cleaned. So I said, this is the part that's going to take the time. And he's like, okay, so that's fine. You keep it. And he signed it, and he was fine with it. So it ended well.
I appreciate that you brought that up, though, because the thing I always want to point out, just because we never had anyone sign anything doesn't mean that's the way we should all keep proceeding. We had to learn things the hard way too many times, and I would rather you all lessen your learning things the hard way as much as possible. So I think that was, I'm glad that you asked, and I'm glad that you handled it that way, because I think there's no harm, and nobody's really going to have a problem with signing. Even simple statement. So, and
I signed it too. So that way we both signed it, and I said, you sign it and I'll sign it, and I'll give you a copy of it. And that way you have it, and you can see that, we're both in agreement that you're giving this to me. And he said, okay, that's fine. So he was just really sweet about it, and he was fine. But I just thought, I don't know you, so I don't know how you're going to, are you going to decide few months, a few weeks down the road, oh, she stole it from me? Or, I would give it right back to him if he wanted it, but he'd have to give me my bench fee. And he's like, no, I don't think it's worth that. It's too old.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, that's fine. I hadn't thought of the tax part of it. Like, I believe it was Christy brought it up.
Yeah.
For him, I hadn't thought of that. And so I don't know if he really would want to take it off his taxes, but.
So I'll transition into that because Christy did comment. She's not on tonight because she's in Georgia right now, but she did ask if I could elaborate a little bit. So to be clear, as a for-profit business, there is no receipt or anything that you can give to give them any type of tax break for a donation. That only works for a 501c3 or some type of nonprofit. So there's nothing that you could have been able to give him other than, nothing to claim, unfortunately.
Okay.
The one thing that you do kind of have to note now for us, like I said, we took in hundreds because we were in a shop and it was in volume. It was mostly touch and sews, which have the market value of absolutely when they're not in working condition. The way my and I'm not an accountant or a legal counsel. I always preface that. I am not a numbers person, but the way that my accountant has always handled it is when you take in a donation, technically you do have to claim on your taxes its market value. I think there's some other rules, like and it probably depends on state too. For me, if I took in donations and if we sold them within the same year, your taxes actually come out in the sales tax. I don't remember how that goes. But as far as fair market value, they are so much lower than you probably think. Fair market value means it's in working condition. It's not based on what you go on eBay and see what it sells for. I don't think that we talked about it. It was ethical. It wasn't trying to scoot around anything, but he was like, if you're giving more than $5 or $10 value to an old sewing machine, especially if it was donated and not in working condition, I think most of the ones that we brought in that were not in working condition, they marked as zero market value because it's not, you couldn't sell it for really any substantial money. It's if you took in a featherweight, if somebody donated a featherweight to you, that would be a completely different scenario. So,
and did I do it? I don't know if it's a right or wrong way, but I took my copy and I stapled it to the intake form and all the information that I had. And I thought that way that'll be in my file. And I told him that I said, this is why I got a copy of it, because I have an intake form. I write down everything. I made really good notes on this one
Yes.
because of the electrical. And I staple it to it and I put it in my file. And he's like, oh, okay, that's fine. And I thought, I don't know what else I can do for that, but
That's it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I am I am I hate that we even have to move boxes. I'm to the point where we are destroying paperwork. We were pretty much paperless when we ended our time in our shop, but I am very particular about notes. I keep notes on everything. I try to keep a file and everything. So even though it costs extra paper or copies, I always make sure that the customer had exactly what we had. So you definitely want to make sure you have your notes and your copies for yourself.
Right.
Because as much as you think you might remember things down the road, if you ever had to go back, and especially come tax season and you're
Right.
always looking for a piece of paper, at least I have boxes I can dig through. It may not be organized, but it's there somewhere.
I didn't give him a copy of my intake form. I kept that for myself.
Yeah, and that's fine too.
But
You have your
because I thought those are my notes.
He's just going to
So,
take it. It's probably going to end up on his dashboard and stay there for 6 months.
yeah, probably, yeah. Now my quick question is how long should I wait to repair this machine? Is there, I mean, what's
It's
good
yours. So I
month?
mean, it's up to you.
mine?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
yours.
I don't know why. I just think, is he
Yeah.
going to come back and say, I changed my mind. I want my machine back. And so, I mean,
I mean, at that point, then you can negotiate. If you'd already fixed it, you could negotiate with him at that point.
Yeah.
If you wanted
Yeah.
to. But I mean, you
Okay.
both have signed a document. And I know that if you'd ever had to go to a court case, and I highly doubt either of you'd want to do that,
Yeah. No.
pretty much past the point of needing to worry about it.
And then my other question is should I have written the value on the form that we both signed?
No, because
I
there's
thought
not really, no.
it's not really, it's probably $50 to $100. So if that, right? Since
Maybe.
it's repaired.
Yeah. Say it's not even in working. I mean, technically I wouldn't consider that in working condition. So
And you can also take off your bench fee off of what you sell it for. That's the only thing that you have to claim as taxes because your bench fee is part of the cost of getting that machine.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Dennis. Yeah, and like I said, I am not a numbers person. I put people on speed dial because I feel really stupid about numbers and I'm terrified of the law for obvious reasons. So I don't really mess around with money.
Right.
But all very good questions, Tammy. And thank you for posting that and for keeping us updated because I think it helps everyone to see that process. And you never know when those weird things are going to come up. And that's why we're all here.
Right. I always have the weird stuff come up. That's just the way it works for me.
I promise. You're just getting started.
But thank you for all your help.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. And as far as, like I said, I hope that I answered Christy's question. If not, when she's back next week, we can talk about it more. But like I said, there's not much you can do as far as anybody getting any type of credit for, and that was a hard thing for us too, because we do a lot of charitable work. We used to work with Hems and Brims in Atlanta, which gives teenagers of color an opportunity to build their own fashion design skills, and they need sewing machines. So we donated 27 machines one year, and reciprocally they collected broken machines and gave them to us, and we could not give them any kind of tax benefit or write-off because I'm not a charity per se. We are working on that for charitable purposes, but it's just that's the law, unfortunately.
Okay.
So that
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have one other thing I think that was really important to mention. And I think I just saw Sally's on, so I hope you don't mind me talking about this, Sally. Sally had posted about her customer that has a advanced baby lock machine. It's Solaris, I think. And this is not like just your average mid-range. The Solaris is kind of, and the Altier are the two top family model machines. Those are the ones that had the projectors and all the fancy stuff in it. Probably paid somewhere between $8,000 and $12,000 for that machine. And her customer is having an issue with the needle centering and the presser foot, and has been to the two local, if I remember correctly, has been to the two local options, and neither of them will work on it, and which is perplexing. So to clear that part up, first of all, when you're dealing with the manufacturers, not all authorized service shops are trained on all machines. So like Spike probably knows this, like if someone brought an M7 into him, probably not authorized to do that work, because it's, even if you're trained on the regular machines, if you're not specifically trained on their top billing machines, then you're not considered authorized for that machine. Is that how it is for Janome too, Spike? Do you know?
No, it basically I can work on any of the machines. The kicker is that they don't provide any training on a lot of those machines. So you don't have any of the information that you would necessarily need
Yeah.
to do it. So
So
it becomes a comfort level. How willing am I to dig into that machine at the, and you know, even though the training will cover like the CM17, which is the flagship machine, it doesn't cover the CM8 or the CM6,
right.
the HD9, none of those. So you're kind of sitting there going, okay, am I willing to dive into it or not? And that's where almost all dealerships are going to be in that boat.
Well,
I find that kind of criminal that they will sell a really expensive machine and nobody knows how to repair it.
now, so for Brothers, a little different than Janome, where you can go get like training for but I think if you're like with Brother, David was a dealer he did sell the big one, so he had to have a technician on site that could handle that. It surprises me that Baby Lock doesn't require the same. They're not the same company, and I know there's a misconception. Brother does provide parts for Baby Lock, but they're built separately. But anyway, so the problem is now this gentleman has this high-end machine that no one in their area will work on. And it sounds like he makes his living with the sewing or has a revenue income from his machine.
He does. He also, I guess he's retired. He has an engineering background, so he just thought, fine, I'll dig into it. And I mean, he sent me some pictures, and I thought, yikes.
Yeah, I know this is where I hope that you all have heard me say it many times. I cannot count how many times I've been approached by people like, oh, I'm an electrical engineer or I'm a mechanical engineer. And Paul's brothers are engineers. And Todd even said, I'm an engineer, and a sewing machine is not the same as a car or any other type of thing. But anyway, the whole point is that this man's been abandoned. Like this is insane that he can't find someone to make these adjustments on this machine. And unfortunately, the only advice I had for Sally is the same advice that I have for all of us that are working collectively. The only thing we can do is advocate for our customer in that situation. So my suggestion was even to make phone calls. This company, they're not going to listen to him. They're going to tell him to take it to a service center, which he already did. They're not going to listen to any of us probably, but I feel like the more that we have to be a squeaky wheel of what do you propose that this gentleman do? I mean, at least with Viking, as annoying it is and nobody wants to ship their machines, they have an option where you can at least box it up properly and ship it somewhere and have it repaired. Baby Lock doesn't even have that type of thing. Well, I haven't even.
I'm
See,
looking.
Janome will do that.
Okay, that's good to know. I don't think Baby Lock or Brother does that or didn't historically.
Well, he also, he did void the warranty visibly because there was, the reason he had to dig into it is a plastic piece on the take-up, needle bar take-up area, cracked. And of course, he couldn't get a replacement for that piece either. So he ended up, gluing it together. And I thought,
Yeah,
that might hold for a while, but
that's going to be a visible sign. So I know I've also said that in the safe space of this group, I would never say this publicly. Sally did ask about voiding the warranty, and technically, unless you break something and make it obvious or you tell someone, they cannot detect if you've been in a machine. There's nothing magical in there. There's no seal that's broken or a trigger or a alarm that goes off. There's no way that a service shop would know if someone's been in the machine. But if you do damage something in that case, and that's going to be a problem.
yeah.
I hate to do that because it sounds like now he's just stuck with
Surprisingly, he got it working, and then he had trouble because the zigzag stitch looked more like a sawtooth. It wasn't quite even.
On
But
situations like that on those machines, it's usually a chain reaction. When you adjust one thing,
yes,
it's usually about 8 other things that need to be adjusted after that. And that's the part that's like, even for engineers, as easy it is to figure that part out, unless you have the trail of what you're supposed to follow on how to adjust, then it's like a guessing game.
think even with the manual and all the instructions, it would be hard to work on that one.
I'm
So,
trained on those. It's like people ask about the Viking Epic all the time. I've been in those machines. I pity the those. I think the average service fee on an Epic Viking Epic is between $250 and $350 because you're looking at probably a minimum of 3 hours to service that machine. Once you get the covers off, then there's computer components that actually have to come out just to reach the mechanical parts. So
yeah.
and the Solaris and the Altair are not that bad, but you've got projectors in there. If you bump one thing, it upsets the entire, system there. So like I
Yeah.
said, the only advice I had really is to advocate on their behalf. So sometimes that means getting on the phone with the companies and just asking and maybe bringing attention to this constant issue we have of our customers don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah, because he'd be happy to take it somewhere.
Yeah.
They just,
He tried.
yeah, he tried and they just
And I
said
hate
no.
that. That really makes me mad because that's not a cheap sewing machine.
No,
It's
no.
a good sewing machine, but it's not a cheap one.
Yeah.
So thank you for also sharing that because I feel like these are things that are going to come up for all of us. Let's see. The last question I had, I don't think we talked about it much last week, but somebody had asked about business phone numbers and how you handle having a phone number that's dedicated to business so you're not getting it to your cell phone. Highly recommend not using your personal phone. You've got to be able to get away from business. Historically, I used Google Voice a lot. I just redid that a while back just to make sure. For a while there, Meta ads were getting really weird where it almost required you to have a phone number, and I don't like that. What we did at the shop actually, when we were on our own, is our phone plan offered a free phone line with a free cheap phone, and we bought on Amazon a set of cordless phone, like an old school cordless phone set that just connects to your cell phone.
Yeah,
So if
Bluetooth
you
connectivity.
need to have like an actual home feeling phone, it was like we're going backwards in time buying actual phones, but in the shop that worked.
But it was nice
It
because
was.
you could have multiple handsets connected to just that cell phone. So everybody, if it was for somebody else, you could just say, "Hey, pick up back there."
So there's a couple of suggestions that were in the group if anybody needs ideas. I just did that not too long ago. I do recommend protecting your mental space. When you get to the point that you're getting volumes of phone calls, for me, it's ads. I got to get away from comments on ads. So I have a completely separate cell phone now. I carry around two phones and it's been worth it. But you can also go, like if your provider is not giving anything that's cheap enough to justify it, you can also get one of those quick, easy phones with minutes on it or something, just something, make it easy for yourself though to work with customers on your own time and protect your family time because nobody follows protocol of not calling through dinner, like during dinner or anything.
Yeah.
And then the only other things I have on here is a reminder that we are still taking tool orders. I just put a new form up in all of the groups. And oh, did you go get the magnetizer? Sorry.
Yeah. Oh,
We did in our last order, we just got a new shipment of tools in and we're putting in another couple orders before the tariffs take effect. We did get I was really skeptical because they have a magnetizer demagnetizer tool and we've tried all of them that you can get at Home Depot and Lowe's and they were terrible. This one was amazing. So we're going to add the Wera magnetizer and demagnetizer to the form, but I think we have until the end of the month before tariffs take place. So we're going to order and have as many in-house before the tariffs happen.
Hey,
Here,
Spike, speaking of tools, I ordered your 5mm hex wrench or hex driver. I messed up on the part number. So I got an 8mm hex driver, which is huge.
So we're reordering your 5.
Yeah, I'm reordering your 5. I don't know what I'm going to do with the 8. I don't know.
It's neat.
Use it to beat somebody over the head, I guess.
But let me spotlight you so you can show this thing.
Oh, okay. All right. So
here, I'll help you.
This is it. I mean, there's not much to it,
but it's amazing.
So you can see it's got like little channels in the sides here, and then it's got one on the end. These are the magnetizing. Oh, you can see it's got magnets in it, right? So you can see right now, I'm kind of able to pick that up, but all you do is just kind of rub this back and forth a little bit, and then it'll pick stuff up, right?
Sorry, that was me.
So yeah, it magnetizes really well. And then to demagnetize it, you just do it there on the end, just a little bit like that. And now it doesn't pick up at all. This works much better. I've seen many of those, the square ones that have the odd stair-shaped cutouts in the middle of them. I've been able to get those to magnetize, but I have a hard time getting them to demagnetize often. And then, just rubbing it against a magnet works, but then you got to have some way to demagnetize it. So yeah, this thing works pretty well. So I think we may add this. I don't know. I don't remember how much.
I don't know what the retail is, but I'll put a post up.
But it works really, really well. And it's got a nice little hole so you can put it on a lanyard or whatever and hang it up somewhere so you don't lose it. But anyway, I thought it was kind of neat.
I personally like it because I do have the big magnet strip from Harbor Freight. That's my magnetizer, but I have no way to demagnetize. And there are times when you don't want magnetized on there and it's a pain. So I haven't had a way to demagnetize. We're also in the middle of working out a deal with the vacuum company, the Supersonic little handheld blower thing. We were going to do, they first initially offered us an affiliate option, which is okay, but we're already shipping out tools, but now they're offering us wholesale. So I think we're going to add those to our shop as well. I don't know how fast we'll have those, but we're putting an order in next week. So they're the only one. I've done not all of them, but I've looked at all the stats online on Amazon as far as the handheld blowers, and it's definitely steps above the rotations per second and whatever the other measurement is on them. So we're going to add those. I think they retail.
It sucks more.
It also blows more. So I don't know.
Anyway.
Yeah, that emailing was fun with that lady. She didn't seem to think my jokes were that funny, but that's all right. So we're going to add those. I think they retail around $65, whereas the ones on Amazon are $45. To me, that extra $20 is worth it. And it's the only reason we're entertaining it. Again, we're not trying to get rich off of handheld blowers, but we get a lot of people that just needs that, not an air compressor. So, and I think that's all I have. Does anybody else have?
Lisa has a question.
Okay.
All right. She said, I've got a question I'd love to chat about working with other local techs and potentially hiring them as some subcontractors for special skills or overflow work. Not that I'm anywhere near that yet. Specifically, my question is about how you get to know their skills or ethics and you trust them.
Yeah, if you want to turn on your mic, that's a good question for sure.
I'm gonna go put this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot more to add to that, but I'm thinking about things like if people want to come to me for sergers and I'm not doing sergers yet, and there's somebody who's willing to be my serger guy, I obviously one option is I could just refer them out, but I'm thinking about, either referring them or subcontracting with them. One, I'm just curious if people have experienced those types of relationships. And I'm thinking about, just because I've seen even the good shops near us, I've seen some of their work and seen that the insides of these machines are filthy, and I'm like, I don't want, how do I get to know and trust someone when we're not working in the same workshop on a day-to-day basis?
That's a really good question. Most of my experience has been working with people in my own shop, and that was very hit or miss. I did work from the standpoint of having apprentices for a while, and it's a really weird space we're in as far as ethics go. I think that I consulted with a lot of people that I trusted that were business people over. If you're looking into working with someone that has experience already, to me, that's completely different. So the only way you could do that is test them out, give them, machines. I would say if you have any of your own that you could keep around for that, reason, I don't know that you'd want to trust a customer machine to them.
I was kind of do I secret shop them? Because if they know it's a job interview, then obviously they're going to do their best work, but then I'm am I being unethical for secret shopping them?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I had apprentices coming in and they were technically working for free, but that's because I was also training them on the job. They had zero experience. So if I'm going to spend my time training you, that's sort of your payment, because, it's just now if somebody approaches me, you'd have to be in my programs and learn the work before I would. So, but if you're working with someone experienced, I feel like you would have to probably put a few things in place there. I feel like being able to check their work and see that. And it would be scary because I'm like, what would happen if they took a machine home and you never got it back? So I feel like you would have to take some extra precautions. Let me ask, I don't think Melanie's on tonight. Melanie Campbell is in North Carolina, I think. She's been working with a Janome dealer for a long time. Granted, she did do training with them, but she works in the same way. I think she works out of her home and she works with the shop, but they trust her to take the machines home and do things. Let me ask her if she has any advice, and I'll think about the people that are kind of have a situation like that
Yeah.
that could offer some advice. Do you have?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I mean, I feel like we're more likely at this point to be on the receiving end of a situation like that.
Right.
And so how are people vetting
Yeah.
us for those jobs?
Yeah. And that's the other thing is like, and Christy's not on, but Christy's helping me with getting some things together with matching people in here with dealers. And after that discussion we had with a lot of the manufacturers and H&H was being able to connect people. But we might also be able to connect people that are in our programs with people in the area that don't want to build their own business.
I mean, that's really the answer here, right? This is
Yes.
the problem you are solving, Andy, right? It's like you get certification and then we know who you can trust.
Exactly. That's what I hope for. That's what we're aiming for sure. So yeah, thank you for that, because I feel like this is something we can really think about and noodle on. It doesn't sound like you're like ready to run out and do that now. And I also say it'd probably be really hard to find someone available that you could work with. It's so hard. I mean, even in Atlanta, there was me and Joe from Action Sewing and one other guy that you might be able to get in, and there was really just no one else. So that's the hard part.
Yeah, there's like a few listings locally of like independent techs that work out of their home on Google Maps. So part of me is like, I should reach out to them just to get to know them. But I'm also like, I don't know. I just want to like kind of hear. I want to like kind of hear what I hear about them first.
I understand that. I guess we're in that weird space. Like, I feel like out there in the real world, it has been us against them. There's only one business in the entire Atlanta area that would even look our direction. And it was, they were really, it was the Bernina shop, but of course we wouldn't, we couldn't do anything with Bernina. But it's really hard to in here. It feels so safe because we all do work together. But out there, it's like you never know if someone was going to be offended if you were to reach out and ask. I don't know. So yeah, let's think about that. And like I said, there's a few people that have a situation like that I'll ask if they can give us some feedback. That's a real good question though. Also,
Hey,
if
Andy?
you have not seen Lisa's social media, you need to. Lisa is amazing. She's got I just saw the spa day one this morning, your spa day video that you did, and she did one that really illustrated what another local person when she opened up a slant needle and how dirty it was. So y'all need to look at Lisa's social media.
Thank you. It's really embarrassing trying to do the social media
thing. It's amazing. You're doing great.
It's been fun so far.
I wish I had that creative mind. I don't have that anymore. Go ahead, Dennis.
I was just going to say, what I've done with the quilt shop and the 2 retreat centers that I'm working with now is I've taken in my insurance papers, my business forms, so they know that I am legit. And that might be something to look into as you're dealing with these people to find out, are they really legit, or are they just, hey, give me some cash and I can see what I can do with your machine. And that's helped out a lot. I've got a Viking Epic from a retreat sitting downstairs that I have to dive into. And the woman trusted me. She goes, I'll be back to the retreat in July. I'll pick it up in July.
Wow.
And so, yeah. That's part of that is
it is
showing that I am legit. So that might be something to think about when you're looking for help from somebody.
And if at all possible, when she comes back, if you can get any kind of review, statement, video, something that will go so far to help you, because we used to have people that we were right on 75, 85 in Atlanta. So people would, from other states would drop machines off on their way because they could make an appointment, go on vacation and pick up on their way back. To me, that's an incredible amount of trust for people to leave a machine like that. That says a lot for you too. But I do think that's great advice. I would definitely, if someone didn't have all of those things in place somehow, that would be a red flag for me. Yeah.
All right. Sally has a question.
Okay.
Let's see if I can remember. Oh, so I have had so many people. First of all, I have people asking if I do surgers, and I finally just said, I'll try, and that's been kind of fun. But I've had a lot of people ask about industrial machines. Is there, I know you don't do it, but in general, is there training for industrial machines? Because apparently it's a big need. Or is this just
Gigantic need.
people, it's just people winging it like I'm doing with the surgers?
Yeah, that's a really hard one, and the same for us. The industrial sector of this is probably more desperate than the home domestic even, because you can't just throw your industrial machine in the back of your car and take it to the shop usually.
Right.
So that industry usually depended on someone coming to your home, and that almost doesn't happen anywhere. So there's really the only person I know that you can really get industrial training from is Ray Muro up in Ohio, I think. And somebody just got back from training. Oh, what's his name? We just sent his tools to him. Anyway, somebody just got back. So I'm going to talk to him and ask him about his experience. I do know Ray Muro from the old defunct sewing machine resource group that we used to admin together. But the problem with his is that you usually have to take your own machines. And I'm like, again, we're back at square one. How am I going to, one, put together a collection of industrial machines to haul to Ohio to have a program? So I'm hoping that he'll bring that back, but there's just almost nothing. Now in the vintage realm, the vintage industrials are very much like home domestic machines. They're just bigger and heavier. So all your cleaning and your lubricating and all that is pretty much standard. The things I'll tell you I don't know anything about is servo motors, doing anything with them. And also when you have to get into things like an oil bath or
Yes.
systems or things like that. Those things. So like when someone has a modern Juki industrial, I that's like going into a modern day car versus like a 1978 vehicle and trying to do maintenance. So I think that it's usually what we have done is we didn't get a whole lot of requests, but we would used to like Google them and look them up. And if it looked like a cast iron machine, yeah, I would do that. But anything that's got all kinds of specialty things, I don't even know how to thread them and make them work, to be honest with you. When they
Yeah,
get
I don't know how to use them.
yeah,
So-
exactly. That's my biggest thing is I don't feel like I could send it out the door feeling confident because I wouldn't know how to test sew on it. Especially we've got an upholstery machine over here that just stares at us because I'm like, well, I'm not going to touch it. So we haven't gotten there yet, but I don't know that I would feel comfortable enough to know enough to test it and do it.
Okay.
But you need to talk. I'll make a note. Amy Winstead would be very happy to talk to you. She's very, very giving with her time and her experience. She'll be back next week. I'll ask her if she'll talk about it. Amy has managed to build a huge business in industrials because she was a little bit more fearless than most of us. She's got a lot of dry cleaners in Louisville that reached out to her they had these industrial machines that really need maintenance. They just need cleaning, lubricating, and all of that. And she basically tells them up front, I'm still in training for domestic. I'm just learning about these. So she'll go and she'll take pictures, she'll talk to them. She goes home and does research and then comes back and does service. And they're very happy because they can't find anybody to work on those machines. So I think it's still in that space as long as you're willing to be honest and upfront with your customer about where you're at in your journey. They're going to work with you because who else do they have?
Right.
So-
If it's broken, you can't break it
Yeah.
anymore.
And you're
So-
probably not going to steal their machine because that's, chances of you hauling it home.
Yeah, sneaking it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one thing we're always looking for an if I could find an industrial expert that would be willing to learn how to teach virtually, I would love to add someone to our thing, but there's no way that I could take the time to learn that sector and bring it here also. So that's just not my lane.
Yeah, Dennis posted in the chat and he said, don't waste your money on artisan in England.
No, thank you, Dennis. I think I told you I broke down and did order one of their modules just to see, because a lot of people, the way some people talked about it, I'm like, I know we put a lot into our programs. And I was like, so that was really eating at me. And then
Just the UK guys?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And this was just on a basic home domestic machine. The only valuable PDF in the whole thing was on timing. And it was like one page. And that's $200. And you have like a 6-month limit access, I think, I don't know. It's bad. So that was a disappointment because I was like, maybe that would help, but I don't. Thank you for validating me, Dennis.
But he
I
also,
did the industrial one. I bought the $200 basic industrial course, and it was basically them copying parts out of a manual
Yep.
and drawing lines, and that was pretty much it. And you do have a coach that you can email to,
But you only
and
get
it
like
took
2
them.
emails. It says you
Yeah,
like a limit of 2 emails.
it was horrible, and so it was just to me a waste of money.
Mhm.
But I did just start a contract with a local company that makes the bimini tops for boats,
Oh,
covers and stuff. They have 60 Juki industrial machines, and I've now signed a contract with them. I go in once a month and start doing maintenance on their machines. So I was upfront and honest with them. I went in, I was able to fix two of their machines that they've been having problems with just through Andy's stuff and understanding how the thread goes, how the timing works. I was able to time one of them, and I was able to fix a stitch issue with another one. And I did that on my time. I donated my first day there. I said, this is just to see if it's something I can do and if it's something you want me to do. And as soon as I fix those two machines, he goes, when can you come back? Let's set up a contract.
nice.
So I have
wow,
a monthly
wow, Dennis,
contract with
that's
him.
awesome.
Are you
So
gonna
it
go
can be
to
done.
Juki? Are you gonna do the Juki training?
Actually, they have a parent company in Connecticut that has a full-time on-staff Juki mechanic, and they're going to bring him down for 2 or 3 days to go with me through all the machines, give me some pointers and some lessons. So I was going to say, let me see if I can talk to him on the side and hook him up with you. Maybe he might want to do something with you.
That would be because
That
honestly,
would be
yeah,
cool.
there a lot of it. I mean, when people hear teaching virtually, they panic, and I'm like, it's really so little. As you all know, we're here when you need us, but when you do it right, there's not, we're not tied up all day helping people. Or at some point, we're just gonna be asking you to come in and teach us. Then, but that's don't say if those things come up, don't immediately say no. There was an opportunity a couple years ago when Adidas had moved a factory to Ackworth, Georgia, a couple years, probably 2018, so
Yeah,
2017.
it was more than a
And
couple years.
they were under the misconception that they would move their factory from Germany to Ackworth, Georgia, and there would just be this plethora of technicians available when they need it. And they went through the entire country and couldn't find anybody and found me. So I go to an interview in their factory in the middle, like just this little, like inconspicuous building. You got to sign a whole bunch of NDAs, that you won't disclose what's in there. And they had 12 industrial machines and sergers sitting in the middle of the room.
Actually
And
discloses what they had in there.
no, I can't. I just can't talk. I like, well, there's nothing to disclose. They're gone, by the way. But and I was like, yeah, no, these are not the machines I can work on. And they almost considered, but they were having to fly their technician from Germany to Ackworth just to keep those machines going. And they eventually packed up and went back to Germany. So that did not work out. But I also had at Kennesaw State University, they reopened their a donated sewing lab basically, and they had 15 different industrials, but they were the ones that were hooked up a whole bunch of airlines and water line. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know anything about this. So it was neat to go see it, but I was like, I'm not your person. So if somebody asks you, don't say no, just give it a minute and just go check it out first. Because if you end up in a situation like Dennis, that can be life-changing. So that's pretty amazing. Let us know how that goes, because that's really cool that you're going to get to spend time with an actual Juki industrial technician.
Do the industrial machines stitch the same way, or do they have a bobbin thread or is it?
They have a
Most of
bobbin
them.
thread. They have an upper thread. It's just how they connect.
Mhm.
Like there's a bar tack machine there that is just wild. If you look at it,
Mhm.
it's crazy how it's stitched. And I was able to get it, believe it or not, to stitch just by pulling off the plate. There's a drive plate that moves back and forth. So there's a lot of little different things on the different machines. But if you've been through Andy's stuff and she walks you right through the stuff, you can kind of figure out, okay, if this is doing this, then that's doing that.
Mhm.
And you guys can do it. If I
Amy
can
will
do
tell
it,
you,
I'm a
Amy,
truck driver. If I can do it, you guys can do it. Okay.
Well, Amy Winstead will tell you the same thing because Amy's not an engineer. She didn't come into this from any type of experience. And she said the exact same thing. If you really study, not just doing cleanings and stuff, if you really get into timing and the way that the function of the machine works, and she's been through the Sincers Zigzag and the Sincers Regular. Those books are expensive. You can find, I think, PDFs online. If you can get to where you're training your brain to understand the way that the machine actually works, then that's like what Dennis is talking about. And I feel like that you can do that. I wish we could do more. I don't know that I was built that way to just take a risk. But like I said, Amy would just go home, do the research and go back. And they were very patient with her because she was very honest about it. So, and then she's to the point where she turns down work, to be honest with you.
Hey,
So,
Dennis, Casey asked where you're located. You're up in Knoxville, right?
Yeah, just south of Knoxville.
Okay. And then Mirzad wanted to know, and how did you structure the contract? Like, do they just pay you for a full day and you work on machines that needed, or is this like machine by machine, or what?
I have it set up with them right now because they know that I'm learning also that they pay me a trip fee to come out to their site and I'll spend the whole day there. They pay me by the hour. If it's an emergency, like something happens to one of their production machines that they need right away, they pay me an extra fee as an emergency fee and then by the hour while I'm there. And they're getting a really good rate because I am learning. And I told them that. I said, starting off, I'm going to give you a great rate because I'm learning. You're allowing me to work on your machines and learn. It's a benefit to you. It's a benefit to me. So let's work this out. And then they ran it up the food chain, and the food chain says, yes, let's get our guy down there. Let's help him understand it so we
That's
can.
awesome.
that is
Yeah.
incredible. And I
That is
feel like
really,
there's
really
probably a lot of those opportunities sitting out there because
Mhm.
there are a lot of, there is no pipeline to train people in that
Mm-mm.
sector at all.
I opened up a 5-thread Serger, a Juki commercial that probably hadn't been opened up in 2 or 3 years, and it was so impacted.
Mhm.
It was unbelievable. I showed the production manager. I said, "Come here, look at this. This is what you're dealing with, and you're wondering why you're breaking threads. You're not getting good stitches." And I was able to adjust just the tension on that, cleaning it out. And he's tickled pink. He goes, "We have never had that thing run really right." And I'm telling everybody, just go out and
Do it.
try.
Mhm.
Just try.
That's such good advice.
It is. And like I said, the only reason we hadn't is because we had no space to do that. We've been, full speed for so many years. But I wish Amy could be on every call to remind you of that because Amy really came from nothing, has built such a business, and it's really just been studying how machines work. And it's like if you're in the timing program, I show you the difference between a gear machine and a shaft machine and a belt machine. They all are the same. It's just the adjustment points look different and the function, the way that it gets there is different. So I thank you for that, Dennis. Continue to be our cheerleader because I feel like that this is our path forward. Every few years, it's just like home domestic. There's such a need and there's no one to fill it. So
if you think all the places, dry cleaning places that do wedding
all trade.
gowns and things, small shops, there's small shops all around that do clothing production type things. I worked at one temporarily during COVID, and decided that's not what I wanted to do. Fix the machine, sure, but driving that thing all day, it was like driving a stick shift up and down hills in the rain for 9 hours a day. It's like,
No, no.
Cruise lines.
Yeah. So actually,
that's a good point. Yeah.
one of my apprentices back in the day worked 7 months a year on a cruise for a cruise line doing costuming. And then one of my other apprentices, I don't remember who she worked
I
for.
don't remember.
But yeah, there's so many people that even at home that buy industrial machines and don't know, because I get emails and all the time and I don't have anywhere to send them. Yeah, there's a lot of industrial out there.
Yeah, I've worked on a few, but I tend to steer clear of them for the most part. Every once in a while, one will come up that's in a situation where, yeah, I can help them out and I'll work on it. But, you know, cleaning out an oil bath system is messy And,
Disposal and
yeah, what do you do with the waste and everything else that you're doing to clean it out with? The other problem is a lot of these people have industrial machines. They're making money off of it, and it's their only machine. At that point, I don't feel comfortable going
I
in
know.
saying I'm learning. You know, I'm going to spend 3 hours. I went into an alteration shop and I had to rush cleaning out the machine because she couldn't be down for an hour.
Oh, that's a problem.
Ooh, yeah. Don't rush me like that.
No, no, that's a no-go.
Yeah, well, but that's what you run
Yeah,
into in a
Right.
lot of these industrial situations is
No
they
matter.
only have one machine. And so it's the machine they're making money off of. And if
that's
you sit there and say, I need 2 hours, 3 hours to
yeah.
do this, they freak out.
That seems scary though to be a business with one machine that all your revenue hinges on.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like it's a smart thing. I don't
No,
know.
that seems like a really bad business plan, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It's not uncommon around here.
it's not.
I believe it.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, even most home domestic people have at least one crappy backup machine somewhere. Grandma's Kenmore that nobody ever got rid of, at least. We found that during COVID. Everybody's like, oh, those machines really are helpful.
Hey, Kristen had a question. Says, what program do we need to move on to after remove your covers in vintage?
Your next step would be timing, which there's two options. We have the basic hook timing program already out there. I don't post the link, just as a reminder, I don't post the link publicly. It's going to be in the sidebar of the Remove Your Covers and Vintage program. I'll put that in there this weekend. I can send you the link also. But it covers hook timing, which is if you're going to have to do a timing adjustment on a machine, 95% of the time it's going to be the hook timing. So that's why I separated it. So for those of you that are like on the lower end of a machine volume or people that are working on their own, don't have to invest into a bigger program. What I'm working on finishing now is the advanced timing program, which will have not just hook timing, but all of the feed timing, needle bar height, feed dog height, parabola, the tolerances, needle centering, all the other things that come with that. And that one will be specifically mostly for modern machine. You can apply it to vintage, but so that would probably be your next step. Those those are not necessary, but I do feel like as you start to understand timing, it helps you understand the function of the machine, like Dennis was talking about. I
And
feel
if
like,
you don't have the troubleshooting,
yeah.
you think that's a good one to have?
Those of you, I know that's one thing that people ask in open house a lot is like, do I really have to have troubleshooting? Because we help you troubleshoot with whatever machine you're working on in
Right.
either of the programs. But for those of you that are building a business, the troubleshooting program, as much as I'm working on adding to it, still helps you to understand when a machine comes in, helps you build the mental steps you go through to discover what the issue is. Because time is money. And if you misdiagnose a machine and go and make a bunch of adjustments, you also can create all kinds of issues. So troubleshooting is a good one, but I do think, like Dennis said, when you start getting into timing, and even if you're not making a bunch of adjustments, learning to look at machines and see where adjustments are made and how the pieces work together, I think goes a long way in helping you understand sewing machines.
Okay, because I'm just trying to figure out how to, you know, what my next steps are to continue my education to, just
Yeah.
as I start to continue to build my business. So I want to make sure
Hands-on
that I'm
experience.
on the right track.
Yes. Yeah. So I will say hands-on experience takes you the furthest. The more machines you
Yeah.
get your hands on, the way, and I feel like that's as much of a mental process and that's why this group started, because I feel like the mental process and having someone say, yes, you're going in the right direction, or because people email and they're like, I should know this, but can you just double check this? I like when you do that because that's reaffirming that you're going in the right direction and that you're not going to mess things up. So I do think that the more you can get, especially on modern machines, getting used to taking those plastic covers off, they can be frustrating and scary all at once. I think it's a little bit easier, but it never goes away. So I think
Yeah.
the more that you get that settled in your mind, that you're used to doing those procedures, and the more that you're used to looking inside a machine and seeing where things should be and things like that really go the furthest. But I do think studying and the timing also really helps a lot.
Yeah, I think I think getting a hold of the machines at my father-in-law's assisted living center was very helpful. I've gotten 7 machines there. So
Wow.
boy, I tell you, that's probably one of the better things. So, but I've got to get some more because I'm almost done with all of those. And so, but yeah, but I think there was only like 1 or 2 computerized machines.
Mhm.
So I'd like to get some more of those, but still a lot of fun and a lot of good experience. So
Yeah, that's what I don't remember who it was. Somebody had emailed me the other day asking, well, I've already gone through all of your material. What do I do next? And I kindly asked, not someone in this group, but I kindly asked, so which machines have you worked on? He's like, oh, I haven't actually worked on any yet. And I was like, well, there's a gap there because he was like, do I just get it? So is there a certificate? And I'm like, well, no. I was like, it's the knowledge is great, but you really it's applying it that really is so we've been back and forth, and he's actually really funny. So it's been fun communicating, but I'm like, it's really the hands-on. And so even in open house, when people are like, oh, I can only learn hands-on, I'm like, you really can't get more hands-on than this program because you're kind of on the hands-on in this program. So yeah. Do we have
very good.
any questions?
No,
All
nothing
right.
in here.
I
Was
thought of a new
anybody else?
question.
Oh, go ahead.
So when I started talking to some of my quilting friends about me getting into this area, they raised the question of, oh, could you come work on my long arm? Because they either hate their tech, they hate the shop that the
Or they
tech is
don't have a tech.
associated with,
Yes.
or they don't have a tech. Is that an area where anyone else has branched out?
Yes. Spike is actually an authorized handy quilter dealer. Tech, not dealer. He works with a shop. In the Remove Your Covers program, I don't really give specific instructions on long arms, but everything you learn in there, you can apply to a long arm. The caveat to that is probably Bernina brand. I'm not actually sure. I haven't been near a Bernina brand mid or long arm at all. I would probably just safe to say probably not that one, but they're really just big sewing machines on wheels on a frame is what I always say in open house. They're actually usually easier to get into because they're a metal frame and there's usually a couple doors. When it comes to timing, my memory is fuzzy. I was able to do handy quilters for a long time because I had their kit, but a lot of them you can adjust timing without their gauges, and some of them you have to have them. But most people really just need the clean and lubricating part, and people are terrified to touch their machines. So there's definitely opportunities there. And
As far as timing, I've done gamels and I've done handy quilters, and you can order the gauges. If you're going to get into that, you can go to the company and order the gauges to do the timing on them. They're not cheap, but they're worthwhile to get
They
if you're
are.
going to get into that business. As far as what skills are crossover, everything you learn in the vintage side crosses over into a long arm because it really is nothing more than a vintage machine with some added computer components to it, that make it do its stitch regulation and so forth. But other than that, it's just a straight up sewing machine.
So I would definitely say I know your area, Pam, of course, and I know the reputation of said shop in your area.
Uh-huh.
So I would say definitely make that a component of what you're doing because you will be wildly popular.
And then I can give them all fun,
Already.
fun tattoos for their machines.
Absolutely. Yes, you can. Yeah, there's definitely a need. I didn't do it because we were always so overwhelmed, but there was, in the beginning, I used to do house calls for long arms. A lot of people have the Grace frames with the home domestic machines, and it doesn't occur to them that it's still a sewing machine too. So yeah, I would definitely capitalize on that. Yeah, that's a good question. Does anybody else have anything or anything good going on or no?
Who's got 2 thumbs, an official LLC name, and an EIN number?
Is that Pam?
Yes, it's me.
Yay! That's always something to celebrate.
Congratulations.
Yes, that's awesome. And I'm happy you're here. Pam and I have known each other a long time, so we've been through some things. To put it mildly.
So it's going to an LLC and getting the EIN number. I mean, it's just me, and I'm expanding slowly. sometimes faster than I think I should be, but I'm still expanding. Do I really need to jump to that as a sole proprietor? I mean, what benefits other than a layer of protection am I getting?
The layer of protection. And it's one of those things, it's just like insurance. I've carried $3 million of insurance for 15 years. Never once have I ever had to use it. I think the thought of being without it terrifies me.
Too bad it's not life
And
insurance.
yeah, I would agree with that. But the thing is it's like you may not ever need it, but and it is hard because your home base, like it was more important for us in a shop because we did have possession and a storage space and all of that. But all it takes is some nutty person in the world to have an issue with someone else and take it out on you to be in a whirlwind. The one There was an example a while back. I'll have to dig it up. I have an email from someone. It has nothing to, it was in the sewing industry, not in the machine industry. But so that's one of those things I feel like you kind of have to decide for yourself. It's not like any of it. I honestly kind of not sure because it's not like you take on a ton of debt and loans and things that you wouldn't be able to pay back and file bankruptcy for, but it really is just the added layer of protection. I don't know that I'm an expert beyond that. For me, it's pretty easy to do. There's a little more responsibility. I still file all my taxes like on my personal taxes. I don't do anything crazy. So it doesn't affect me other than paying $50 every year to the state to keep up my LLC and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it hasn't been much of a pain. Just peace of mind, honestly. Yeah. And if anybody else has any thoughts on that, I welcome them. The EIN is almost hard to get away without anymore. I will say that a lot of places will accept a social security number, but I'm also gotten paranoid enough. I don't just like to throw that around anymore either. So there's that.
Interesting comment from Pam. You should also set up the LLC and EIN so I can consider expanding the business in the future with employees and possibly get a small business health insurance policy since my family doesn't have coverage since I got laid off.
Exactly. I hadn't thought about that either. Yeah, thank you for offering that, Pam.
Yeah, it was for the bank account as much as let me keep everything separate and tight from the start. But also with an eye for like, hey, in 5 years,
Yeah.
am I going to grow this? Am I going to have employees? Am I going to want to have these other things? So,
And I do think that on credit applications, like not that you would be taking out loans, but like even with PD60 or any of the supply wholesalers, they technically do ask for like how long you've been in business. And sometimes it's only marked by an LLC. I don't know that's never kept me from getting any type of account with anybody. But that's a good thought. I hadn't thought about that for insurance reasons either. Cheryl, are you saying that it's $800 a year for an LLC in California, which I guess shouldn't surprise me, but that really just took me by surprise for a moment.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It's been that high for years. Yeah.
Wow.
How much is yours, Spike?
150.
Okay.
Yeah, in Georgia it was 100 your first year, and then I think $50 after, and here it's the same. So
Oh, it's 150 each year for me.
wow, that's a far cry from 800. Well, I can understand if you're not doing an LLC, Cheryl. It seems like a lot. That's a big budget.
Okay.
That would kill me because some years it was like, I will find that $50 somewhere to not be delinquent with the state. I mean, there were years it was like that. Yeah, I'll look and see. I think I have some notes tucked away. Like I said, I'm not a legal expert by any means, but I did once write down like the pros and cons of things, and I'll see if I have anything useful in there for you, Dennis, and see if that helps for the group. That's a good question though.
Yeah, see, I don't plan on really expanding. I have my retirement, so I have my insurance through the Teamsters. So a lot of what I have, we don't have a lot that, I mean, somebody could come after us, obviously, and get something out of this, but I'm like you, I have that $3 million insurance umbrella policy. I have specifics on machines. And so I've added different types of insurance for litigation and other stuff. And then my son's an attorney. So if I really get into trouble, I just say, hey, Chris, help. But other than that, everybody so far has just been great to work with. It's just amazing because they're thriving to get you to come in and please help me, that I haven't got into that. Even the ones I couldn't fix or their machines were too far gone, they were just thankful that someone finally said, yes,
Yep.
you're correct. It's broken. It's not going to work.
Yes.
Hey, I get to go get a new machine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Time to move on.
Just a
Absolutely.
paid enabler. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm thankful we have these conversations, because I'm not saying that y'all don't believe us, but when people first get into sewing machines and realize they want to build some type of business, I think there's this overwhelming fear of what happens when all these machines come in. And this is this is the issue I had with the Trumbolls. I think the Trumbolls are great people. They're the in Texas, the Fixed Sewing Machines Institute. They are great people, and I think their heart is in the right spot. But you go in there, you absorb all of their stuff in literally 3 to 5 days. Everything you can, from getting into your first machine through troubleshooting, timing. I don't think they teach troubleshooting, timing, all the way through embroidery machines. And then you go home, and it's 6 months before you see a machine that needs timing adjustments. What do you think has happened between, then and there? So I went home even when I first started working on modern machines with them, and was terrified of what happens when all these people come in with broken machines. And it still took months and months and months for a legitimately broken machine. And even when I couldn't fix it, they were the same thing as Dennis. Everybody's like, I'm just happy someone can confirm that I can let this machine go. I've hated it since day one anyway. So sometimes it's really just a matter of saying, I've tried everything, I've reached out for help, and there's just not an option. So don't get that built up in your head that everybody's going to bring you broken machines that you're not going to figure out. So,
Though I get a few of those.
yeah.
And I've told people that it was, not worth the cost of repairs too.
We were honest. We were always honest about the value of the machine. We would, and we tried to help people where we could. We had a lot of design school kids at the local university at Kennesaw State that were investing into the Singer heavy duty machines, which I think you all probably know my strong feelings on the heavy duty. It's not a heavy duty, but they would, yeah, they would come in, and the timing would be off because of course they're sewing types of garment material that are not made for that machine. And then they would come back 3 weeks later with the timing off again. And I stopped charging them. Like, they came and paid me one time, and I'm like, you can just come in indefinitely and I'll just adjust the timing really fast. So, we do what we can, but I mean, people really are, and it's not every corner of the world, but it's most corners really have nobody. It's a desert out there. And even through a recession or through a falling economy, sewing is people's mental health. This is like their outlet. So that's why we call you all sewing machine heroes, because you are a hero to your community. So keep that.
Even, you've said this before with your experience, Andy, but I have other technicians around me that I'm taking business away from now because, they either have lost interest, or they just want to do the bare minimum.
Yep.
Or in some cases they don't want to work on those machines anymore. Especially the older vintage machines,
which is crazy.
Well, it's the way it is.
I know.
I've had a string of Kenmore 385s come in, that nobody wants to work on. And one is it's a doorstop. The other one, I was able to resuscitate it and get it back to working, and keep on rolling with it. But for everybody out there, even if there are technicians around,
I don't ever let that discourage you. We set up shop 3 miles from the 4th generation technician in Atlanta. And what's crazy is everybody's like, you're brave. But you know what? They had gotten so comfortable about being there with their crappy customer service and the way that they talk down their front desk people would talk down to people and make women feel stupid, and it wasn't, it was just their front desk people were like that. It wasn't warm. It wasn't welcoming. And we thrived 3 miles from them. I'm sure he upheld his own business, but we thrived because we were kinder. We were more patient. We never were the cheapest guy on the block. That's why I don't ever preach that. You're giving customer service above and beyond. So don't try to be the cheapest guy on the block. But people get really lazy and really, really lax, and they know that it's a desert out there, so they don't have to work hard to keep their business. So be that presence for sure. Yeah.
Razad has an interesting comment. She said, for folks who aren't feeling like an LLC is for them, but would like to feel protected, invest in making sure your contracts and your intake forms basically are fully vetted by a knowledgeable attorney. That's a very good idea.
Yeah, and that's
You
that's
know?
also a touchy subject with us. I think most of you know we are kind of in this situation with our experience at VDTA. We are pressing forward and filing with the FTC over fraud and kind of pushing a last chance to make it right effort. What we've all learned, even for those of us who go and speak to guilds and all that, you have contracts, not sure how much they're worth pursuing and how ironclad they are in court. So it's the same thing with our intake form. The example we have in the guides is the last one we used, never vetted by an attorney, but I feel like we tried to cover that little paragraph kept getting bigger and bigger because every time a situation would arise, you're like, damn it, got to add one more thing to the list there. So that's really good advice. And do remember that intake form is there for you to use and modify however you want. So please use it. And if anybody has any suggestions, please feel free to add that to that module too. So Mirzad said, so when people sign the form to get their machine fixed, they are fully releasing you from liability. That's pretty much what we did. That came in really handy for us on things like people that insisted they leave their machine accessories with us. We were like, especially during COVID, when we had machines everywhere, it's like, just take all the extra feet home. We don't need that here. They're going to get lost. But we've added that to our form. We will do our best, but if something's missing, I don't know what to tell you. So everything you can think of, that's what should be on that form. Sure.
Andy, one last thing, going back to when you said you moved close to the other place. There was a gentleman in the Knoxville general area that was well loved by everybody. And he was doing kind of what I am starting to do and going to the guilds, going to the retreats. And he had his drop off points all over, and he'd make his, loop around. Everybody loved him. He was the guy to go to if you wanted your sewing machine fixed. And he was going to teach his son. His son was going to take over. Well, he suddenly had a heart attack and passed away before he could really teach his son. And this is several years ago, so everyone's kind of been out. But his son started doing the work. And when I came along, I heard about the original. I heard about the son, and I'm like, well, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I'm here if I can be extra help, that's great. Well, there's a lot of people that don't really like the son. He's kind of a jerk, and he charges what he wants to charge, and it may be one price one time, one price another time. And all I'm doing is going in, and if you just be nice and honest with the people, everybody, I get people asking, hey, can you fix my long arm too? What will it take to get you to come out? If I get a couple of my friends and we get some machines all together, will you come out and do my long arm and fix all of our machines in one shot? So I think the main thing to keep in everybody's mind is people want you. They really want you. If you're nice and you can talk to people and just be honest with them, you're gonna go far. You're just gonna go far, because it's, as Andy says all the time, we're lacking. There's a lack of people that can actually get out, get the job done, and be honest with people. It's a dying art to just to be honest with people anymore.
It really is. And that's why I know we do talk about that a lot, about the honesty part. That's really, I think there's still honest shops out there. But a lot of the big giant sew and back stores really do, and I talk about this in open house a lot, the big sew and back stores, the big ones, where they've got the lights everywhere and all the machines, they are really built on making their money by selling machines. So they consider machine service actually a loss leader for those big sew and back places. What they pay a technician to come in there and do that volume of machines and whatnot usually breaks even or less. But that gets people in the stores. But they also, if you've not bought a high-end machine in a long time, we hear this all the time. They don't even tell you that you need to have your, what type of service schedule, because they know if you neglect your machine, what's going to happen? That's a trade-in or an upgrade. So I'm not saying that they're all vultures, but that's what people are used to dealing with now. We've lost independent technicians in droves, probably a good 10 or 20 years even before COVID hit, and then it got really bad. So people are now used to those service centers that have a different business model. And for you to come along and and that's why it didn't work with the dealer I worked with, other than our ethics didn't match up. His job was to sell machines. My job was to save machines. It just did not work out. I would be 1000% honest with a customer, and he had a problem with that. So that's what's going to set you apart from those big sew and back stores too. So thank you for that, Dennis. That's really,
And turnaround time.
yeah, it is turnaround time. Yes. And also just the one-on-one customer. Because when you go into sew and back stores, you don't ever see the technician. You just see the front desk people. So they're actually talking to you and you're the one working on the machine. That has always gone a very long way in our business. So that's great advice. Thank you for that, Dennis.
And your description of a dealership is the fight that I have to fight all the time, being a dealer and repairing sewing machines.
I
I
get
have
it.
to make
But I do feel like the dealers, like the small quilt shops, because there's a lot that's becoming a trend now, is having smaller shops be a dealer. That's why even Necky wants to work with them, because the feel is different. They don't want that high sales, but you're also an ethical dealer. So you do make some money from service, but you also have machines. I think you have the best of both worlds, honestly. You know.
Yeah, I've sold a couple machines, because the machine that was brought in was basically DOA,
Yeah.
and there was just no fixing it. And I've sold a few machines that way, but that's still not what I try to do. And my sales director for Janome is she thinks I ought to do the opposite. I
Yeah,
should be
because
trying to sell.
that's how she gets paid.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
it's all the way from top down. It really is. And I think there's a need for that. But there are people that will, like cars, they'll buy a new machine every few years and trade in or do something. But somebody did ask me, I wish I could remember who it was. I don't think it's somebody on the call tonight, who's only been getting vintage machines, and she's only going to remove your covers because she only wanted to work on modern machines. And that's why I tell people, if you're gonna go into business, you're looking at a split. You're never gonna get all vintage or all modern, because that's just the way it goes. So some people hang on to those machines until they die, and other people like to turn around and trade one in every few years. So
Yep. I've got a rash of Singer 201s.
yeah.
And then I got the rash of was 385s, Kenmore 385 series. Yeah, it's like you never can tell what's going to come in the door next.
Never ever. Somebody even brought us their Acu quilt cutter once, and our front desk person was new, and I was like, Deanne, this is not a sewing machine. I don't know what to do with this. Don't take those in. That's where I draw the line.
Yep.
Well, thank you all for the discussion tonight. We had some really good things in here. I have a few other things when Christy's back next week to talk about when she's on, and then maybe we can get Amy on to talk a little bit more about industrial, because she's always very happy to. But not next week. Next week is Memorial Day weekend. We did thank you, Razat. We're getting there. The fatigue is killing us. We're still testing positive for COVID, so we're still, that and the intestinal part has not been fun. So other than that, I feel like I'm at least up and functioning today, and that's been really good. But where you just kind of sit there and stare off, that's kind of where we're at right now. So we're going to rest this weekend. We have no plans other than staying home, and not necessarily quarantining, but just staying home and resting. And then we'll probably do the same thing next weekend, honestly, at this rate. So, but thank you all for your kindness. Paul and I talk about this all the time. We are very grateful for all of you for your patience, because it always feels like when we know we're human, we get sick, things happen, we have to cancel things, but it always feels like you're kind of on display. So I promise I'm not really riddled with this many health issues. It's just, COVID. So, but thank you all for your patience. I think we're almost caught up. For anybody that had tools, if you paid an invoice, your tools have gone out. I'm getting ready to send another round of invoices. So if anybody's waiting for anything, it's on the way. So, you all have a really good holiday next week. We will definitely miss you. Like I said, we're just kind of, I'm going to try and get some sewing time this weekend, even if it's really slow. So make sure you go watch the
Andy,
documentary. Yeah,
before you go, did you get my order for the tools?
I did. Yes, your invoice is going to come this weekend while I'm sitting down. We're getting through.
Can you add the demagnetizer to it?
Yes, I can do that. And
Yeah, I was wondering about the same thing.
yeah, I can do that. And do you want me I'll probably be in touch with both of you. Do you want me to wait to send it? Because we haven't ordered the demagnetizers yet. Do you want me to wait and send it or
I'm not in a hurry for the tools,
okay.
so that's fine.
How about you,
Yeah,
Sly?
that's I'm the same.
Okay, and we're gonna wait for your other driver anyway, because Paul was like, that was really dumb.
Right. Yeah, just ship them all together.
Okay, I will do that. And oh, good. Yeah, Casey said she watched the documentary just before this, so
Yeah, we just watched it too, and thank you for that because that was really cool to see that. So we were trying to figure out how we could help out or what we could do
we've
to
got
propagate that.
there is so many things. I'm so grateful. This is a mission I've been on a personal note for a long time. I've been speaking to guilds about my experience and the few programs that exist since 2014. And Angola is the most known. So if you all have some time and you want to see, there is actually a podcast called, I think it's called Angola Burning or something like that. It's in Louisiana. It's on an old plantation, an old slave plantation, and they started the quilting thing. Theirs is a little different. They have a hospice program, and so everybody that passes in that prison gets a quilt that goes on the casket. And they still do horse-drawn carriage. We talked about that a little bit last week. There's a podcast that's really good from Angola, but there's people always have been emailing me or asking me, how do we donate? How do we start programs? How do we do these things? It's very difficult to get in behind the red tape of these programs. And a lot of that, unfortunately, is political. So it's, it's not like you can just walk in and start this thing, which you've probably seen how they check in and out tools and everything. And having been on a fire department of prison, that's very familiar to how we did things. But now because this film has caught so much attention. I mean, it was nominated for an Emmy, I believe. So it was one of those nice to be mentioned things. But now we're working on organizing donations for these different programs. And I'll be working with Jennifer McShane on probably doing some guild talks with her. And then we are going to do a database on how to, and there's people that want to form groups. So it's going to be a lot of collective work. If people want to form a group, we're going to have to figure out how to get behind those walls. So I'm very excited though that there's an interest because, like I said before, my entire healing journey came post-prison through quilting. Honestly, that's why I'm here. That's why this program exists, because that was my healing journey. I'm almost, next year will be 20 years that I've been free. So this is how I've chosen to take something that was horrible for me and turn it into something good. So to have this collision in my world has been amazing because now there's resources opening up and there's ways and doors are opening up for all of us to do this. So I do appreciate that. And that's always going to be a side project for me. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. And if you don't have Netflix, I think they do a free trial. Do it long enough to see it because it's really worth it. And then I'll post the links to her other two documentaries that she's got out too. So thank you guys, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. If you guys need anything, I will go back since Paul wasn't here and look at the chat and see if there's any questions. I see that you are. I'll go through and see who wants to add things, and we do have the stubby bulk orders. The invoices are coming soon too. So Paul was just doing that today. So I let him work as long as his little brain can handle it, and then I send him upstairs for a while because he'll
That's
just.
good. I was just going to ask about what the orders for the stubbies were. So
yeah, he's got. I think they're all printed and ready to go. So. All right, thank you guys. So have a good vacation next week, I hope, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right.
Bye.